Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're basically debugging the human hard drive. We've got a stack of research here looking at memory, and it essentially claims our intuition about how we store information is just completely wrong. So our mission today is to, well, dismantle that old multi-store model.
Yeah, which is that classic psychology textbook diagram. You know, the one that pictures short-term memory as this single generic holding bin.
Right, like whether you're remembering a face or a phone number or a smell, it all just gets dumped into the exact same bucket.
Exactly. But the research we're looking at today, the working memory model, or WMM, it argues that if memory were truly a single bucket, our brains would just crash constantly.
Right, so instead we're running a complex office with very specialized department.
And very limited resources, yeah. The WMM breaks short-term memory down into three distinct components, starting with the phonological loop, which is essentially your inner ear.
So like the voice inside my head reading this script right now.
That's the one. It handles auditory information and the order of things, but running parallel to that, you've got the visuospatial sketchpad.
The inner eye.
Right, your inner eye. So if I ask you to picture your front door and count the windows, that's the sketchpad booting up.
And the sources emphasize that these two systems are functionally separate, right? They don't really talk to each other directly. They report to a manager.
Yeah.
The central executive.
The boss, yeah. It drives your attention and switches focus. However, and this is a really critical point in the literature, the central executive is the most controversial part of the model.
Because it's too vague, right?
Exactly. Researchers criticize it for being a bit of a black box. We know something controls the flow of information, but we can't pinpoint it physically in the brain the same way we can with the other parts.
Okay, so we have a clear audio department, a clear visual department, and a mysterious manager. But this isn't just theory, right? Because the dual task performance studies actually provided the proof for this.
They did.
And this is the bit I found fascinating. You can multitask, but only if you cross-pollinate departments.
That is the key. So in Baddeley's study, if you ask someone to do two visual tasks at the same time, like tracking a moving light while also imagining a letter, they fail.
The visuospatial sketchpad just gets overloaded.
Yeah, the bandwidth is maxed out completely.
But if you ask them to track that same light while repeating a poem?
They can do it almost perfectly because the visual task is in the sketchpad and the verbal task is in the phonological loop, so they aren't fighting for the same resources.
Which basically kills the single bin theory right there.
Totally. And then you have the medical evidence, which is tragic but scientifically groundbreaking. Take the case of KF, the patient with brain damage who couldn't process verbal short-term memory.
Right, so if you spoke a list of numbers to him, he would forget them instantly because his phonological loop was broken.
But, and this is the smoking gun here, if you showed him those exact same numbers written down, he could remember them. His sketchpad was completely intact.
Which proves these things live in entirely different physical neighborhoods of the brain. You burn down one house, and the neighbor is totally fine.
Yep. Though the sources do note it gets even messier.
Oh, right, because even the phonological loop might be too simple. Some patients lose the ability to speak words, but can actually still understand them.
Right, which definitely suggests the inner voice and the inner ear might be separate mechanisms too. It is layers all the way down.
And this fragmentation applies to long-term memory as well. It's not just one big archive down in the basement.
No, and this is where the biology gets really specific. We used to lump all past knowledge together, but now we know there are three distinct types, and they live in different parts of the brain.
Right, so you have episodic memory, which is your autobiography, your 10th birthday party, and that is heavy on the hippocampus.
Then there's semantic memory.
The raw data.
Exactly, just facts. Knowing Paris is in France, but not remembering the specific moment you learned it, that is usually housed in the temporal lobe.
Now, both of those are explicit, right? You have to consciously reach for them. But the third one is the strangest, procedural memory.
The zombie mode.
Basically, yeah. This is skills and muscle memory. Riding a bike, typing, playing the piano. This lives in the cerebellum and the motor cortex, completely independent of the other two.
Which perfectly explains those fascinating cases of amnesia where someone can't remember their own name or what they had for breakfast, but they can still sit down and play a complex Mozart concerto perfectly.
Because the hippocampus is damaged, destroying the episodic memory, but the cerebellum is fine, so the procedural memory just keeps running.
It really validates the idea that memory isn't just a single thing you have or lose. It is a highly distributed network.
It honestly changes how you view your own mind. It's not a monolith, It's a collection of subsystems,
And systems that can operate entirely without your permission.
which is the unsettling part.
Very unsettling.
And that is actually the thought I want to leave everyone with today. We know procedural memory runs automatically, right? You don't think about how to walk. But if so much of our long-term storage is unconscious, it makes you ask how many of your daily reactions, habits, or instincts are actually just procedural scripts running in the background, completely outside your conscious control.
Wow, yeah. That is a question worth a deep dive of its own.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.